bobbin winding on the Brother Select-O-Matic. You have two choices. There's a spool down here next to the tension button, and you can run off of this spool under your winding button and up to the bobbin winder. It's push to engage, clutch nut in the hand wheel, very standard operation. It's also got a drive pin on it, not the spring, so this machine prefers machine style class 15 bobbins, just because the straight sides fit better with that finger. Metal and plastic work fine too. Plastic is a good alternative. The other option is from your main spool pin, you can run through the first thread guide here and over to the tension button. For that to work, you need to make sure that the left, center, right adjustment is out of the way so it doesn't snag the thread. To thread the Brother Select-O-Matic, it's got thread guide on the top here. Thread goes outside the tensioner. It's got the take-up spring here. And you need to make sure that the spring pops up to get the thread behind this finger, but as you saw, if you pull it too far, sometimes that take-up spring will get stuck behind this guide on top. During regular operation, you can see it doesn't have that issue, only if you over tug when you're threading. And then we've got take-up arm, and a thread guide opposite the take-up arm, or a thread guide right here, thread guide right here, and then needle bar thread guide. And again, I forgot to put a needle in this machine, so I had the needle clamp tightened up so it wouldn't flop around while I was running the machine to get the oil worked into it. There. So flat to the inside. Get our thread to go through our needle bar clamp here. Why? Oh, because it's open on the top, not on the bottom. Okay, that is much easier to do. All right, needle bar clamp, and then thread it from the outside in. Side load class 15. So load up our bobbin case and snap that in the side there. And obviously I have the cover slide off, because this is on the bench and not in a cabinet. Alright, the Brother Select-O-Matic has some interesting features. It's got a couple dials here. So this dial actually controls the stitch length maximum. So your stitch length paddle, forward, reverse, and then this dial can be turned to 0 and it barely moves, and then you can turn the dial all the way up. And 0 is 6.5 or 6, and then the dial or the paddle will move the maximum distance. The feed dog drop has 4 settings. 4 is the lowest, and 1 is the highest, so you need to set this for 1 to get your feed dogs to be lifted up to feed fabric. The tensioner has no numbers on it. This dial just screws and unscrews, so you have to find your setting and stick with it. There's a left, middle, right control for the needle position, and that is also how you get buttonhole on this machine. With the width knob pushed in, the cam dial on top is marked 1, 2, 3, 4. And 2, you can see the width dial here goes from 0 to 4. So as I turn this from 0, it goes 1, matches to 1 pretty closely. 2 goes to 2.5. And then the left and right dial will set that to work on the left or right side of your buttonhole. So you can set the dial to 1 to have a narrow left and right side of your buttonhole, and use your feed controls to get fine feed forward or reverse. And then 3 holds your zigzag at the maximum width. So you use position 1 and position 3 on this dial to do a buttonhole using your forward and reverse and your left, middle, right controls. The other reason for the number on the dial is that because this is the cam stack, when you're using your Select-O-Matic decorative stitches, you can use the dial 0 through 4 to make sure that you are matching your stitches when you start and stop. So if you're using stitch 0 and you stop with the stitch at 1 with this dial on 1, then you know that you can do whatever work and then turn this dial back to whatever starting point you want to use on the stitch. So the Select-O-Matic has a tiny diagram here behind the pin for bobbin winding for the various shapes. This top dial has numbers on it on the side where my finger is, and to shift it you need to turn the width dial to lift the finger, and then you can turn this to pick your stitch and pull the dial out to engage the cam stack. And then when you want to go back to regular zigzag stitching, you push this dial back in. This dial will control your zigzag, but the best way to do it is to set yourself on cam 0 and then turn the dial around to the spot where this zigzag is whatever width you want it to be, and that will provide a steady zigzag for you.